Gang, no, don't worry. This isn't a bait and switch. We are going to talk about Star Citizen. I am pausing my Satisfactory playthrough right now because obviously a few things have happened in the last couple days that I felt like I could talk about. So I got 5 things I want to talk about. I'm not going to keep you here too long. You can probably guess what they are if you can sort of see the general feel of the community at the moment, or at least the vocal part of the community. That said, let's get this. Okay, so I got 5 things I want to talk about today. First one is the 3.24.1 drop, kind of the rough nature of the patches. You can kind of see I've got Jared up here, and we're going to talk about him for, well, not about him, talk about the state of the patches recently. I wanted to talk about the ship nerf drama. I wanted to talk about the ATLS sale and kind of a missed opportunity that CIG had there. Finally, kind of want to wrap it up with kind of a general view of content creators and content creation in the last couple of years, kind of themes that I'm noticing, and then just kind of a real quick 4.0 look ahead. I'll link the down below bits, so if you feel like you have heard enough about one subject, you can just skip ahead and you're not going to hurt my feelings. All right, so let's get into it.
What work is being done to stop our hangar deco from bouncing around so that we can make our hangars the way they are shown in ISC? We actually answered this last week with Benoit. That's here because I want to refer people back to Benoit. Basically, it is not a feature issue, it is a matter of physics. Physics is one of the largest performance hits to the server, so that is basically it, trying to negotiate the physics of all those items placed on other items. As server performance,
stop them there. Let's go on to the next clip, and then I'll kind of tie these things together.
But on top of all that, there's a lot of things that happen even still, like, in between, like what we would normally go, to live and doing further development. And in particular, some things that like ended up being especially problematic, like going long, was things in particular like ATC and transit. ATC and transit were 2 really critical parts of the whole hangar loop, of course.
And we're going to stop Chad there because that is kind of the point that I wanted to make here. So hang on just a sec. So we'll just cue this up so that we got something to look at that's moving in the background. Basically what Chad is talking about there, and Jared to a certain extent, is kind of legacy code, a game development, and code rot. So code rot is when you're making software development, game development in particular, and you're kind of moving forward, the state of the art is constantly progressing out in the world, and you've got to upgrade your engine, you've got to upgrade your code to make it match the old stuff. And so not only are you trying to produce the game as you envisioned it, but you're also trying to keep that game as it's in development up with what's going. If you release a game in 3 years, but it looks like a game that was made 3 to 5 years ago, no one's going to buy it, no one's going to play it, no one's going to enjoy it because it's not doing all the things that modern games are doing. So you got to keep doing that. The problem is that the bones of the game are still that old code, and that is sort of what CIG is bumping into over and over and over again as they try to implement things like static server meshing, dynamic server meshing, object container streaming, all of those sorts of things. They're trying to put that on top of an engine. What was it? The Unreal, was it Unreal or was it, no, it's Crytek, is the Cry engine. They're still dealing with some of that legacy code in there. And the problem is you can't really rip the bones out of something without killing it. So you just kind of got to modify the bones just a little bit as you go. And now they're kind of bumping into it with Transit, ATC, all these little background things. Now they're having to deal with it because it's breaking the game. Especially added to that, they're trying to add in new features that really haven't been done before to this scale or this level of detail. Other games have done games that are this detailed, other games have done things to this scale. Very, very, very few games have mashed those things together because it would take way too much money and way too much time. And guess what CIG is criticized for the most? Time and money. I am going to say one thing that always pops up in my comments and comments that I see across other content creators is that CIG is a scam because what they're doing is they've discovered that they can make money selling ships, and so they're just going to keep selling ships and they're not going to release a game. That is not how money works. If you go back and you watch my video, I won't make you watch it because Starfield wasn't a really great game. Apparently they made a bunch of strides, but they kind of burned their bridges with me. And that's kind of how I treat games. But yeah, so Starfield in one weekend made something like $400 million in a weekend. So CIG knows the money is in releasing the game. Like feeding on whales like this guy and a couple of my friends and tons of other people across the community, that's a law of diminishing return. Eventually those people are gonna be like, there's nothing here. I found this other game that's doing all the things that were scratching the itch, so I'm just going to go play that game. They're on borrowed time. They know that. They release a game, they bring in a ton of new people, they create new excitement. Even people that are just going to play the game for like a weekend and then be like, not really for me, and move on to the next thing, make a ton more money. So I'm not going to beat that point into the ground. Just know that the launches of 323, 324, I'm trying to remember if 322 was rough or not. I don't really remember. 318 was rough. I seem to remember 320 being pretty good, 321, but 323, 324 have been rough. The latest hotfix, well, not hotfix, full on patch 324.1, by all accounts is pretty solid. All right. You can see where this one's going to go, but probably not the direction you're thinking. So this is the Redeemer, of course. In the latest patch, they nerfed it. They brought it back down to life, or brought it back down to ground. As a $325 ship, people are complaining that now it's weaker than the A2 and the Constellation, which the Constellation is a valid argument. The Constellation is also a gunboat, and I think the Constellation might be getting its own nerf. One of the things that I think happened here was the introduction of the new way that gimbals work. Is it used to be you could have big guns that could only fire straight, or you could have slightly smaller, less powerful guns that were able to gimbal and could kind of auto aim. I think it was 324 was where they changed it, where gimbaling your guns no longer made them go down in size. You could have the option of making them go down in size, but if you had a size 5 gimbal like what the Redeemer has, you could have size 5 guns on there. It used to be you could only have size 4. So CIG is just kind of balancing it out and kind of saying, okay, we didn't envision this thing being like a Star Destroyer, like a 3-person Star Destroyer that would be popping Idrises. So let's bring it back down to where we wanted it to be with the size 4s, and we'll go from there. This is the kind of balance, and Jared says this all the time, the devs say this all the time, but it's true. They're going to be balancing these things forever. Like even after the game goes gold, people are going to find exploits. I mean, Eve does this, Elite Dangerous does this. They'll release a new ship, they'll release an old ship, they'll introduce a new mechanic, something like that kind of changes the meta of the game. And then the game developers are kind of like, well, this one ship just made all the other ships obsolete, so we need to tune whatever's going on here, either raise the other ships or lower the one ship, and guess which one's easier to do. So in this case, the Redeemer was the one that got hit. Will it be coming back? Yeah. So the Redeemer's job is to loiter. Its job is just to think of it as like one of the old Huey gunboats, or like a Blackhawk if you want to be more modern. It's just supposed to orbit around a combat zone and just pour in fire and fire and fire. Ships like that need to be heavily armored. Armor isn't in the game yet. When armor comes in, it's going to be a sea change that changes literally how the game is played, probably even more than master modes, I would say, as far as combat is concerned. Okay, maybe not as much as master modes, which other people are whining about that one too, but I think that that really is kind of a vocal minority, that there are people, I'm not going to name the content in particular because I do like the content creator, but they have the view that everybody in the game should be a dogfighter and should enjoy dogfighting, and the only reason they don't is because they haven't had proper training. But if they had proper training and they understood the concepts of OODA loops and other dogfighting techniques, then they'd all want to be dogfighters. That's not true in a game like Star Citizen. In a game like Star Citizen, there's people like me that have been playing PvP games for years and want something that's a slightly different experience. I mean, I turn 50 next year. My days of Twitch gaming and just pure PvP wrecking nerds and stuff, I wouldn't say it's over. I'll still do it, but it's not something I'm actively seeking. My ship in the game is going to be a Vanu Merchantman, which can hold its own in combat, but I want to engage more of the cerebral trade economics and dealing with other people and smuggling. Totally not smuggling, trading totally legitimate things. I don't necessarily want to be out there dogfighting in my brand Banu Merchantman. A lot of people don't. A lot of people just want to fly their C2. They're not going to be dogfighting in that thing. Knowing how to fight a little bit just to be able to survive combat with the people who do, not a bad idea, but not everybody is looking for that as their primary experience. So between those two things, master modes and the nerf, just don't go melting your Redeemer. I certainly haven't melted mine because it's going to be an effective ship. It is going to be that ship eventually. They're going to be balancing it. They're going to keep doing changes. Next patch, they're probably going to overcompensate and the Redeemer is going to be the most powerful ship in the game again. That's just the way the development goes. So, for lack of a better term, settle down, let it ride, just kind of be like, I guess I'm not pulling the Redeemer this patch because it's not doing what I want it to do, and kind of put notes in Spectrum, make videos, whatever, just kind of know that, hey, what'd you guys do? You promised one thing, you gave me another. Actually, this is kind of when they originally released it, this is closer to what it actually was, but we won't go there. So enough about that. Let's go on to the next topic. Another one I could be a little salty on. So the Argo Atlas, I was talking about this one when it dropped to the PTU and Evocati had access to it. I was like, this is a really cool ship. I think CIG has a great opportunity here to release something tiny. I said so far, the floor for ship sales has been around $30, but it would be awesome if CIG broke that mold and released this thing for $15 and maybe $20 with a game pack. And then you would finally have a no ship game pack for the people that are 0 to hero players. Like they would get a mech walker and they could have other people pay them to load up ships, and then they could do a true 0 to hero. They wouldn't have any ship. They would just be a cargo loader. Then they'd be able to buy an Aurora, and then they'd be able to do missions, that kind of thing. I thought that that was a great opportunity for CIG to take. Unfortunately, they chose to go a different direction. So yeah, you could get it for $35 flat, which again is the cost of some ships, or you could get it for $40 if you're going to use in-store credits. This is a really useful vehicle, I'm not gonna lie, if you are into the cargo mechanics of the game. So if you're one of those PvP combat people, you don't need to worry about this thing at all. If you're in pretty much any other loop, something like this actually isn't bad. You can certainly use the hand tools. They work pretty well. This thing is a bit quicker, which is nice. I mean, it's something you're paying money for. It should actually be pretty useful. But $35 was a missed opportunity. I mean, even at 20, it would have been one of those where like, yeah, okay. Because I mean, I was thinking, okay, when this thing drops, I'm going to get 2. just so that I could get, that's generally when loading up my ships, I've seen is the most efficient thing is 2 people, 1 person kind of standing in the ship and 1 person just kind of unloading the freight elevator, or other way around. You have 1 person unloading the ship and 1 person loading the freight elevator. So 2 of these would make that very quick work. But at $35, I'm not going to spend $70 on something that is so narrow in its focus. What I would suggest you do is wait until this is in the game, which is going to be 4.0, which I'm going to talk about at the end of the vid. So in 4.0, they should be dropping this thing into the game for in-game dollars, spacebucks, and it won't be that expensive. You could probably get it in an hour or 2 of grinding in the game. Go that route. $35. Is it worth it? Probably not for that, if I really have to be honest, which kind of sucks for me because I love these little walkers. Really looking forward to the Titan suit, but this does have me a little bit nervous about what the Titan suit is going to cost. It's basically this armored with guns. So yeah, I could see the Titan suit with this being the baseline. They're going to make an enclosed one that we saw for, it was in a background image, I believe, for salvaging, like a reclaimer thing. They had a little dude in a suit behind it. It was the ATLS chassis, but it was an enclosed suit, kind of had a bigger backpack. So they're going to have variants of this moving forward, probably for each loop. You're probably going to have a mining version. You're probably going to have a salvage version. You're probably going to have a builder version. Wouldn't be shocked if there's one that's construction. But those are all going to be more expensive than this. This thing just has tractor beam. So you're going to be talking things that are $45, $65, $80 maybe. And now you're starting to compete against ships that can actually do stuff more than just walk around. So missed opportunity. Let's get into the Q&A real quick. One thing I want to say before I get into the QA, everybody always blames marketing. They're always like, oh, marketing is so predatory and awful and terrible and all this sort of stuff. As a former accountant, let me tell you that marketing is not making these decisions in the vacuum. They're not walking into the room and Chris is like, hey guys, why don't we sell this for $15? And then they just pound on them and they're like, no, we're selling it for 35. No, that is not what's happening. Accountants are kind of looking at the money made for the year, money made for like per patch and stuff like that. And they're kind of like, okay, we need this much money and it needs to grow year over year because we have to give people bonuses and raises and incentive pay to stick around or we start losing our good devs. So accounts are kind of looking at doing cost benefit analysis or sort of saying, hey, we need to meet these quarterly goals or we're not going to be solvent as a company. And CIG, I'll bet they are operating in the black. I will bet they are not really far into the black. These kind of devs and producing 2 games concurrently is very expensive. So yeah, this isn't marketing making things in a vacuum. This is accounting. This is the CEO, the CFO, the COO, whoever, and marketing all kind of getting together, going through things and sort of saying, okay, what can we sell this for? Can we handle the blowback from the community? That's definitely going to happen. Do we want to set a floor at $30? My fear is if $30 is the floor, what are they going to do when they release things like the Ranger? I mean, if they release something like roller skates, is that going to be $30? The hang glider that we saw for the 890 jump commercial, or I think it was the 100i. I don't know, guys. But anyway, things that people are worried about. These are kind of the Q&A things. I'm sure they're going to have another one that's community submitted. Environmental protection, obviously not. It's an open cockpit. Does the ATLS provide any armor for the character? At the moment, it's invulnerable. If somebody is shooting at your face, they're going to hurt and kill you. But if they're shooting at your back, you're invulnerable for this patch. Does the Atlas come with any storage? Look at it. No, but future versions definitely will have a backpack. We've seen the concept images. This is a big one. Is the Atlas equipped with bright headlights to enable me to work at night, or rotating flashing lights for safety, extra vibe, whatever? Yeah, they will be putting lights on it, and eventually I think you can even see it in one of these images. Yeah, so I mean, you can sort of see the lights there. They're just not working right now. So we're going to get lights on this thing eventually. They're just not in this batch. Right now, if you use the headlight on your helmet, works fine. Atlas introduces a new type of tractor beam. Will other ships be able to make use of it? No. This is like an exclusive one. One of the things that makes this thing useful is that it points the tractor beam at the object it wants to move. The object quickly snaps to it, and then it can turn, and it gives it like the location of where you can click and release it, which is a lot faster than tap something with the tractor beam, mouse wheel it in, then you turn, and then you mouse wheel it over to where you want to drop it, kind of adjust it and stuff. I haven't actually tried turning things with that tractor beam, so that might be where it bounces off, is you get more fine-tuned control with the hand ones than you do with this one. It's weird that I didn't try that, since Tetris is kind of my bag. Anyway, let's go on. All right, so again, I'm just going to put this up here so you got something moving in the background that you can watch play on repeat forever. This one's going to be a very short one. Normally, I'd say I need to be a little bit careful here, but I don't care because this is a hobby for me, not a job. Content creators, one of the things I try to do is try to keep an even keel. There's other content creators out there that do the same. This is just a hobby for me. I don't really get paid for this. This is just something that I do in my free time, because really it started as me wanting to learn the Premiere suite for my job. And I was like, hey, I could start making videos and stuff like that and learn how to do this. So I always kind of wanted to do broadcasting or streaming or something, and I love this game. Good combination. Other content creators have quit their jobs and made this their life. Like, this is what they do for a job. And when you make an alpha project your job, reporting on an alpha project, when you're not actually in the alpha project working on it as a dev, you're kind of relying on the development team in that company to continue putting out content that you can then take and make your own content on. Some people are overwhelmingly positive on the project because they need it to succeed because their livelihood is involved. Others are so tied up in it that they're starting to go negative because they're kind of like, hey, I can't do my job if you don't do your job. And unfortunately, kind of the negative voices during the last 2 years, people are kind of looking at the attention and the views and likes and the shares and the whatever, the things that actually create money for content creators. They're watching those revenues and view counts spike up, and they're sort of saying, hey, if I go negative, I'll get those views too. And it's kind of creating a cascading effect and dogpiling on CIG and kind of creating a false narrative, because I think most of the people who are playing this game, they might be a little bit frustrated, but they're still enjoying the game. Like, I will still, prior to me playing Satisfactory, this short playthrough, I would still drop into Star Citizen, even at its buggiest, probably 4 or 5 times a week at least, and drop with the org and my friends. Try to do that as often as possible. And I mean, it's fun when you do that, but you go on Spectrum, you go into Reddit, you go on the Star Citizen channel, and you just hear people just angry and angry and angry. And basically some of that, I won't say all of that, is coming down from content creators that are getting frustrated and sort of projecting that onto CIG because CIG isn't developing the game fast enough and isn't creating content for them to create content off of. Just wanted to say that out there. Muhammad Ali is credited with a quote of saying, a dog can bark at the moon, but if the moon barks back, that's the most important dog in the world. And that applies both to me and to those content creators. Like me barking at big channel, big name content creators that are going negative, they don't care. Like, if they call me out, the only thing it's going to do is raise the profile of this channel. But the same thing applies to CIG, that if they start replying to the negative content creators, other content creators are going to see these content creators getting the attention, and they're going to say, hey, if that's what gets CIG's attention and gets my name out there on the billboard, I'm going to go the same route. So take all content creators, especially this guy's, anything we say with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, it's just opinions. That said, let's look forward to something a little more positive. So this is probably what's going to be dropping for SitCon, whether SitCon is going to be 4.0 or not. This was Thursday's ISC where they were talking about the Zeus and especially the MFDs. So you can see those things. Those are things we've been waiting ages for. We've had these MFDs, I believe, were the same MFDs that we had in CryEngine back in the hangar module when we couldn't fly our ships at all. You could turn it on and you could look at the little MFDs. So when they're talking about legacy tech, this is legacy tech, not the Zeus, the MFDs. But it's all part of the modernization of this game where they're just kind of going through trying to rip out all the really old stuff from 8 to 10 years ago that they just kind of put in there as kind of a baseline of people are playing this game. We need to make a playable experience. Let's make it so that people can move from A to B. Let's put in this traversal thing. We need people to be able to interact with the power on their ship. Let's just slap this thing in. And they do that. And now they kind of have to go in and fix it. The problem is that people are used to using those old systems, and those systems are highly integrated into what they have now. So 4.0, that's just kind of in general. 4.0 is going to have quite a bit of things, but as we've seen with 323 and as we've seen with 324, it comes with its own perils. Things are going to break. So 4.0, like I said with 324, of, hey, give it a week. With 4.0, jump in, take things out, look at things. But I think 4.0 will be a little bit of an easier step than 323 or 324 because those are kind of laying the groundwork or the foundation for 4.0 to work. I do think that 4.0 will be a little bit more stable than either of those patches were. Plus they've learned lessons. But it's still going to have things that are going to be broken. You can't implement technology like that and not have it broken. So expect it to drop, expect people to play it, expect things to break, expect people to start howling everywhere on social media. And in probably a month or two, they'll fix it. I really hope they don't release 4.0 for SitCon, but I think they will. They're kind of obligated to at this point. But basically what will happen is they'll drop it at SitCon. They'll try to fix it up before IAE drops, which is when we'll see the Polaris more than likely. And then they go on break for a couple months. And if the game is broken in that state, people are going to lose their minds. So hopefully, and I think CIG has matured to the point where they're all like, we will weather the bad press if it means that we can have something that's working a little bit better or fulfilling our goals there. And that is really cool, the way that tractor beam comes out. But anyway, gang, that is all I got for this one. So basically just me bitching for like 20 minutes. Woo! Good content. All right, I'll catch me later.